Alrighty, welcome everyone to my ranking of all 37 mono green cards in Stirrings in Goldport for Green Stompy. Stirrings in Goldport, or SGP, is the newest set to be added to the Revolution format starting September 1st. Its designer, Catalyst, is a first-time designer to the format but has been playing for a while. This set focuses a lot on colorless, with Eldrazi payoffs being at the top end of the set. This set has a lot of goodies for mono green, perhaps one of the best sets in recent memory for the archetype, and especially for Stompy. We have a lot of powerful new threats that we can run in our board and main deck. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and see how the deck's doing currently. This is our current list as it stands. We're kind of short on good 4-drops right now. So going into this, I'm going to be looking out for powerful 4-drops that we can be running to replace our non-existent slots right now. We have currently some decent slots in other archetypes, but nothing that's so irreplaceable that something from Stirrings and Goldport could maybe usurp the slot. So let's go ahead and see what we're losing. Clicks of Nylon, one of my favorite sets in the format, is rotating on September 1st, and we're losing a lot of cards that have seen play in the archetype before. Xenoplanar Engineer used to be the 3-drop of choice once Theros Age of Tracks rotated, but it has fallen off a little bit recently because the deck has moved away from being a counters deck. Sleeper Insurgent used to be the hot new tech that I used to get second place in Worlds, but unfortunately, without its friend Skola Nyxweaver, it has not made a resurgence. Cabinet and Recruiter and Salamander Grafter were cards I've tested before, but didn't quite make the list. But of course, the most important loss is Aspiring Anarchist. This used to be the premier 1-drop for mono green Stompy back in the day. It was able to get massive for a 1-drop and really push in, and it had Trample, which is super important because not a lot of cards in mono green have Trample right now. And this was one of the best ways to push damage. So we're also going to be looking out for powerful 1-drops to hopefully replace Aspiring Anarchist. Alright, one last note before I get into it. We have typically played mono green Stompy in the past, but I am open to checking out other colors. I have played Naya Stompy using stuff like Revolt in the Palace for an encounter and powerful powerful 2-color payoffs. And there also just is other mid-range decks and Stompy decks that could use these cards in this set, so I will make sure to call it out when I see it. Without further ado, let's get into it. At number 37, we have what I consider to be the worst mono green card in the set, though it isn't really a green card. We have Discordant Maw, 4 and a green for a 5/4 creature Eldrazi. It has Devoid, a returning mechanic from canon that says this card has no color. While it's technically not mono green, we're still going to consider it for this list because it has a green pip in its mana cost. When it enters, if you sacrifice a creature this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Eldrazi Scions also return in this set. They are, I don't remember if it's Scions or the other type. We'll find out later, but it's a it's a 1/1 that you can sacrifice to add a single colorless mana. And generally, you're supposed to use it to ramp into big threats like this. Unfortunately, this is a limited card. A 5-mana 6/5 with no keywords is not exactly something to write home about. We have extremely strong 5-drops right now. That's probably the one slot that we are overflowing with options for mono green Stompy right now. Aurora Buffer Exec has proven herself time and time again to be one of our best top ends, and Prying Hydra is a card I've been testing that has really impressed me with how powerful and massive it can get. So unfortunately, Discordant Maw just not going to make it in our lists. Starbreaker Juvenile is 5 and a green for a 5/5 creature horror. It has Vigilance and Reach, and whenever you spend 4 more mana to cast a spell, if this creature has no counters on it, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Unfortunately, this is a common that is just not going to match up with the biggest stat bombs that we currently have in the format. Tumultivore is an absolutely filthy 6-drop that we run, and we have even bigger creatures if we want to go tall. A 6-mana 5/5 which Vigilance and Reach is not enticing, and really a 7/7 with Vigilance and Reach for the same mana cost is not going to entice either. Savage Broodmother is 6 and a green for a 7/7 creature Eldrazi. It has Devoid, and this creature can't be blocked by creatures with a power 2 or less. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. 7 mana 7/7 with conditional unblockable is like sort of interesting, and making the 1/1 silence is cute, but when you're at 7 mana, you don't really need to be ramping anymore, so the 1/1s are just going to be cards that you sack, and unfortunately we're not really a sack deck that needs a 7-drop, so I think Tumultivore and even Rex Tyrannos are still going to take the spot here. Skatebender is 5 a colorless and a colorless for a 7/7 creature Eldrazi with trample. Whenever you spend 7 or more mana to cast a spell, put 3+1/+1 counters on this creature. And then it also has a Mythos. This is sort of similar to Adventures, sort of similar to like the Prepared mechanic. So you can pay X and a green as a sorcery to put X+1/+1 counters on target creature. You can cast this from your hand or a copy from the battlefield once. If you cast it from your hand, I believe it goes to the graveyard, unlike Adventures. So, what does this mean? We have a 7 mana 7/7 with trample, that whenever you spend 7 more mana to cast a spell, you put 3 counters on a creature. On this creature, that is not good. We do not run 7-drops at all right now, and if we did, it would not really be much of a Stompy deck anymore. The top of our curve is a 6-drop, but only because it has haste. So, we're not interested in the creature side of Skatebender. The Mythos is a little interesting, but if we want to play X and a green to put X counters on something, there's better creatures later in this that are growing, scaling threats with X mana, so I think Pierce Infinity has to land at the bottom of the list for just being 2 worse effects we're not even sure we want. So, moving on. Overzealous Recon is 3 and a green for a 3/2 creature human detective with vigilance. When it dies, you create a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi creature token. The 4-drop slot is, while not our strongest mana value, we do have some powerful options. Esteemed Exterminator is a very, very solid 4-drop. That is just a control killer. Groveborn Envoy is a card I've been testing. That's kind of nice because it can get pretty big, and it has some insulation from removal, which is nice. While Overzealous Recon also has insulation from removal, the base stat line is nothing to write home about. So unfortunately, we're going to be passing on it. Eldritch Growth is 3 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Untap each land named Wastes put onto the battlefield this way. We really do not want to be running Wastes in our deck. The colorless green archetype does seem interesting, but it's more for a ramp deck than a Stompy deck. We don't want to be running Explosive Vegetation pretty much ever in Stompy. Our ramp is so much better. We have a Roar, which is ramp attached to a creature, which is much better. So we are going to go ahead and just be passing on this one as well. A Hole in the Sky is 2 and a green for an instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control an Eldrazi, and you can destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. So this is not a bad rate. Artifact, enchantment, and creature with flying is a nice coverage, and if you can cast it for 2 mana, that's pretty solid. But we're not going to really have Eldrazi in Mono Green Stompy. I've looked at the Eldrazi options for this set, and I think a lot of them are just worse than the non-Eldrazi options, and I don't think A Hole in the Sky is enough justification to be running this Eldrazi. Hungry Blob and Gorian Lacespire are still kings of our sideboard. Bark Splitter Colossus is 6 green for an 8/8 creature elemental horror. It has trample, and when it enters, you gain 3 life. And then it also has the Mythos, Winding Roots. 1 and a green for a sorcery, you surveil 1 and you gain 3 life. Now, this isn't a bad rate. 2 mana to surveil 1 and gain 3 life is a bad rate, but being attached to a bigger creature is a nice late game option. However, we are not going to get to 8 mana very often in this deck, so I think we still just have better top ends. Even if there is, like, desperately a reason you want to run something that's expensive but cheap early, we can just run Alwanor the Humbled Star, which makes a Mana Dork, which is a bit better than Winding Roots effect. Unethical Enhancements is 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample until on a turn. If it's a token, it also gains indestructible until on a turn. Now, Mono Green is not really a heroic deck or a Valiant deck if you're more Bloomburrow pilled. We don't really get any payouts for casting spells at target creatures. Our one payoff that actually did reward that just rotated with Clicks of Nylon. If you're looking for combat tricks, I think Eternal Struggle is a card that is underplayed and very solid. And if you're just looking to cast stuff that targets your own stuff, Momentous Strike is really strong. I just don't think Unethical Enhancements gets there. Formless Scape is 2 and a green for an enchantment aura. It has enchant land, and when it enters, investigate. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional colorless. Now, normally, this is a bad ramp card, and I would put it straight to the bottom of the list. However, we now care about clue tokens. You will see the reason why later, but Formlesscape gets a couple points just because it makes a clue. Unfortunately for it, it is still a 3-mana ramp card, and we have much better options at 1 mana and 2 mana. So, Formlesscape, gonna go to the bin. Sorry. For all of Caloran is 3 green for a sorcery. Creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. Creature tokens you control also gain trample until end of turn. Unfortunately, this is no overrun. 5 mana for +3/+3 is not a bad rate, and the trample granting is nice if it was to creatures and not just tokens. Unfortunately, we just don't have that many tokens, so if you're looking to give a board wipe buff, Breath of the Spirit Realm is probably still going to be your best option in mono green, and Tumultivore is still going to be the actual best option because it comes attached to a creature. First Responders is 2 and a green for a 3/2 creature human detective. When it enters, investigate, and whenever you sacrifice a clue, this creature gets +1/+1 against trample until end of turn. As I mentioned, we're going to start caring about clue tokens in green pretty soon. However, I don't think this 3-drop is the clue-making 3-drop that we're going to be wanting to run. Winding Assailant and Master of Stances are probably better 3-drops than just based on its rate alone. Winding Assailant is always going to be a 3-mana 4/4 trample, while this will usually be a 3/2 without trample. So, we're going to move on. Calham Plow Drivers is 1 and a green for a 2/2 creature Ox. It has Vigilance, and whenever it attacks with 1 or more tokens, it gets +1/+1 against trample until end of turn thanks to the Coalition mechanic. This is a mechanic that checks to see if you're attacking alongside token creatures. When it comes to attacking alongside things, we're usually doing non-token creatures, not tokens. I think a tokens deck will probably be able to use this well, and there has been sort of a mono-green token deck brewing with all the support has been getting recent from, it's getting small pieces of support from recent sets. However, our best 2-drops, Growing Gecko and Ursus Minora, kind of destroy this on rate. They both also grow, and they have just much better ways to get in than Plow Driver. So unfortunately, we're going to have to pass on it for now, but keep it in mind, because this is yet another solid token piece to keep in for a potential future tokens deck. Mutation Investigator is 1 and a green for a 1/2 creature human scientist. It can tap to add green, and you can pay 1 mana and tap to put a counter on target creature with mana value 4 or greater. Activate only as a sorcery. I do like this design a lot. Being a 2-mana 1/2 that taps for green is not great, but being able to pump up your thing in the late game to help it get over opponent's creatures is pretty nice. Unfortunately, I do think Dark Thicket Howler kind of does the same thing better. Instead of growing your stuff, it does let you draw cards, which is not something that mono green is very good at, so that becomes premium. And of course, this is no Husforger Acolyte. Streetway Incursion is 3 and a green for a sorcery. You may choose one, create 2 1/1 Eldrazi Scions, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Normally, I wouldn't give this effect the light of day, but the counter on each creature you control is nice to bump up your boards for Commander of the Vow and Faithline Marshal, and also make tokens if you need those instead. So I think the modality just gives it the smallest bit of potential, so it's going to land itself at spot 23. Just above the curve of our powerful mono-green token cards. Analytic Processor is 2 a green and a green for a 6/6 artifact creature Construct Detective. As an additional cost to cast a spell, pay 2 or sacrifice a clue. That rhymes. And it has Vigilance and Reach. Now, like I've mentioned, we have strong 4-drops, and this is not going to surpass them. But being able to sacrifice a clue to make a 4-mana 6/6 with Vigilance and Reach is pretty solid. I could see a world where we splash another color to get as many clues as possible and just play this as a large statted creature. Now, that being said, I think even in that archetype, there's probably still 1 4-drop that takes advantage of you having clues a little bit more. But we'll get to that much later. Confidential Science is 1 and a green for an enchantment. When it enters, you draw a card, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, investigate. Now, I do think this card is good. I don't think it's good in mono green Stompy. There are payoffs for casting spells with mana value 4 or greater in mono green, and there are payoffs for making tokens in mono green, and this does both. But I don't think mono green Stompy is the deck to take advantage of it. I do think it's cute to have Sproutling synergy with this card because you can make tokens with the cast triggers, and then this will come down cheap and also give you an additional clue when you do, which is nice. Ancient Stirrings is a reprint from canon. Single green mana for a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a colorless card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Unfortunately for Ancient Stirrings, at least for 4 more months, it shares a format with A Journey Begins, which is just miles and miles ahead of literally any other green cantrip in the format. Rex Tyrannos is also pretty decent, but I think we don't really have much colorless threats we're looking for. It would mostly just be grabbing lands, so I think for now we're going to pass on Ancient Stirrings. But it's good to keep in mind for the future. Astrum Reaver is 3 and a colorless mana for a 4/2 creature Eldrazi Spider. It has flash and reach, and at the beginning of each end step, if you spent mana from a Scion this turn, put a +1/+1 encounter on each creature you control. And that has a Mythos Grizzly Bloom. 5 and a green for a 4/2 sorcery. No, sorry, not 4/2. A 5 and a green for a sorcery. Create 3/1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature tokens with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. I wanted to love Astrum Weaver so much. I went into, like, the mono green deck, and I was like, okay, I'm going to build a Scion deck first. That sounds like the most exciting thing for me. Unfortunately, the Scion creating payoffs are just not there in mono green. I think other archetypes will probably be able to take advantage of this better, but for now, I don't think we can. It is, however, yet another card that has flash in green. And this weirdly mono green flash deck looks more and more real with every set that comes out. So I'll have to keep an eye on this for that in the future. Game Hunters is 1 and a green for a 2/2 creature, Human Ranger. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 encounter on this creature. It's weird how much synergy this has in mono green. We already have our new clue tokens. We already have Primal Fisher Fetch that we like to run in mono green for landfall triggers. We have cards like Do Reward and Winding Assailant from VLR that take advantage of either being sacked or sacking stuff. There is a surprising amount of sack going on if we want to build around Game Hunters. And if we can make it work, this is a 2-drop that grows pretty decently. I think this, for now, it's not something we want, but it's something to keep in mind for the future. Star-Touched Arborist is 2 and a green for a 2/3 creature, Human Druid. When it enters, you search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And then you can pay 2 and a colors and tap to fragment this creature. This is a new mechanic. Create a 1/1 token copy of it and put a splinter counter on both. Creatures with splinter counters can't be fragmented. A 3-mana 2/3 that fetches up a basic is not bad. We do have cards. We really do want to hit our land drops in this deck as often as possible until we get to turn 6. So the fact that this can hit your land drop and then guarantee hit another land drop later is really nice. The colorless cost is an issue, but it does also make a token for the effects that care about that. Unfortunately, we just have decent 3-drops right now with Winding Assailant, Redeemer of Hollowed Flesh, Master of Stances. Like, these are all kind of just going to outclass the Arborist. Rose Garden Conference is 1 and a green for a 3/2 creature, Human Noble. It has Coalition. Whenever this creature attacks with 1 or more tokens, untap up to 1 target land you control. It becomes an XX green elemental land creature until end of turn, where X is the number of attacking tokens. You may have it become tapped and attacking. I was going in and I'm thinking, wait, we're a clue deck now. We can use tokens. Unfortunately, Coalition cares about attacking with creature tokens, and we still don't have many creature tokens in the new list, even after SGP rotates in. So, while I think Rose Garden Conference is a very good card, I don't think it's a card that we're going to be running. I do like that if you just have a token, you can use your untapped land to just like untap. You can untap your land and use it as mana instead of having it attack, which is a very nice touch. But unfortunately, we just don't have tokens to help enable this. Bitten by the Void is 1 and a green for an instant. Choose one. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control, or create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. This is a honestly really solid bite spell. 2 mana to bite something is not a lovely rate, but with the added modality of being able to use it as emergency ramp or even emergency blocker, like, that is some good modality. Unfortunately, Momentous Strike is still kind of the best bite in the format, but I think Bitten by the Void becomes number 2, replacing Lupensi Perseus. Yestergrove Relic is 2 and a green for a 3/3 artifact creature construct. When it enters, you investigate, and whenever you draw your second card each turn, you would put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. I think this is honestly really solid as well. A 3-mana 3/3 that investigates is not a bad rate, and being able to ramp whenever we draw is solid. This curves very well into a card we're going to be mentioning later. This also does enable Concord for Hope's Trail Ranger, which is a card we have tried to make work before and didn't quite work in mono green. But it also provides Sack Fodder for Winding Assailant, which is a card we're currently playing. So I think overall, this is a very convincing and powerful package. But unfortunately for it, there is a better 3-drop for mono green that we're going to be covering later that I think this is beaten out by. Voices in the Mist is X green for a 1/1 creature Eldrazi Hydra. It has Devoid, Trample, and when it enters, you put X+1 custom counters on it, then you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, this creature fights target creature you don't control. Another powerful Sack Fodder piece. Being able to just be like a 5-mana 4/4 that bites something is pretty solid. You do have to sack a creature to do it, so it's not the best rate, but I like having the modality there. Unfortunately, Momentous Strike is still the best bite. It doesn't come attached to a creature, but it does have the efficiency that Voices in the Mist dearly lacks. So I don't think we need it for now. Curious Botanist is 1 green for a 3/3 artifact creature construct. Whenever it enters or attacks, choose 1. Investigate. You may play an additional land this turn, or you gain 2 life. I actually really like this 3-drop. It's not the one I was talking about earlier when I said it was the best 3-drop for green in the set, but we are actually going to be spoiled for choice after this comes out. Curious Botanist is probably the 3rd best 3-drop in mono green, behind Winding Assailant and the new one, and I think it might just make the cut. We don't want to be running, or sorry, we do want to be running a lot of 3-drops to take fair advantage of Huskforger Acolyte, and I think Curious Botanist does a compelling case for why we should choose it. The Investigate mode is very nice late game when we need to dig for our cards. The gain 2 life does matter against burn. There's many times where I've just been burned out by burn before I was able to stabilize, and the ramp is very good too. I'm imagining ramping into a roar, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So I think Curious Botanist is absolutely going to find a place in the list. Awoken Cordillera is 3 green for a 6/6 creature Eldrazi. It has Devoid, Trample, and when it dies, return to the battlefield tapped and face down. For as long as it's face down, it's a land with tap, add colorless, and whenever you spend your 7th total mana to cast spells each turn, tap this land and turn it face up. I think the main issue with this card is that it doesn't have haste, or an immediate ETB. A 5-mana 6/6 Trample is very solid, and the fact that it's hard to kill permanently is nice. You need to have exile removal or bounce. Turning into a soul land when it dies is a nice touch. We have some trouble spending 7 mana to cast spells on a turn, but not so much that it's never going to happen. We can double spell late game with a 5-drop and a 2-drop or something like that. So I don't think it's unplayable. However, like I said, we're absolutely spoiled for choice for 5-drops. Aurora is so good, and Estwald Brigands is a card that I've been liking more and more in mono green as well. So I just don't think a Warden Cordillera is going to get there. Gene Recombinators is 3 green for a 4/4 creature Human Scientist. You can pay 1 and sacrifice 2 creatures to create an XX green ooze creature token. Rex is the total power of the sacrificed creatures. Activate only as a sorcery. And it has Coalition. Whenever there's a creature attacks with 1 or more tokens, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. I think this card is really solid. Being able to just like save your creatures from like Nightfall by combining them is a really just like tempting offer. You know, like if you have big creatures just lying around that you know are going to get like swept up by a damage or toughness based board wipe soon, just being able to pay 1 and put them together is just powerful. If you have any way to like attack with this and that token after without this dying to Nightfall, you're going to really start pumping out big creatures each turn. I think the main issue with this card is that it's just slow. You need 4 mana 4/4 on curve is not great. 5 mana 4/4 that makes 2 of your creatures combine into 1 is neat, but also does open you up to single target removal more, which is not great. And having an attack trigger that only works if you attack with a creature token, which again we do not run normally, is going to be a downside as well. I think this is a secret 5-drop in disguise, and it is not a 5-drop we are interested in running, unfortunately. Shambling Isle is part of a cycle of monocolor identity lands that can tap for green or colorless. It enters tapped, you can tap for colorless or green, and then you can pay 2 and a green, tap, sacrifice this land to put 2 counters on target creature you control. It gains trample until end of turn, and you make a tapped colorless land token named Nowhere with tap, add colorless, which is a very good bet. I think this is actually one of the best lands that mono green has ever gotten. Gorean Observatory is obviously number one because you can run it in a mono green deck for free, but I think Shambling Isle replaces Buffer Reconservatory for number two. The fact that you can activate it at instant speed to go ahead and just make a creature a trampler is so relevant. We have so many massive creatures that just can't get through because they don't have trample. And it also comes with a landfall trigger. So now it pumps up our Ursus Minora, our Tumultivore. They all get grown by this as well. I think Shambling Isle is a lock for the list. I don't know how many copies I'm going to run. That's going to be something I'll have to play test because it does enter tapped, which is unfortunate. But I think it's absolutely going to be there in at least one copy. Holism Seeker is 2 and a green for a 1/2 creature human citizen. When it enters, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment, and then you can pay 3 colorless, tap it to fragment the creature. I am so torn on this. Comparing to Hungry Blob and Gorean Lacespire is hard because those cards can only hit mana value 3 or less. If I ever see something that costs 4 or more, I'm basically screwed in being able to deal with it. So this can hit those, but having worse stats and not being able to clear a bunch of tokens like those cards can is a rough trade-off. I think Holism Seeker probably stays outside of the sideboard for now, but I'm going to keep an eye on it, and if we don't get anything better in the next set, I think it is a lock for the sideboard once GQ Chaos Rain rotates. Donnybrook is a single mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Investigate. This is the only card in the format that can actually challenge Momentous Strike for the 1 mana interaction slot in green. Fight is obviously worse than Bite. That goes without saying. But the Investigate is so important. And again, I keep alluding to this powerful card later that takes advantage of these clue tokens. And I promise you, this card makes it worth it to run as many clues as you can. The Investigate is a really nice upside on this type of effect. And I will be testing this over Momentous Strike becoming month 1 of SGP's time in the format. Because I think Donnybrook could get it over Momentous Strike, depending on if that powerful card stays intact. Wreckage Inquisitors is a single green mana for a 1/2 creature human detective. When it enters, investigate. It's a green version of the classic white effect we've seen so far, and stuff like, I want to say Novice Detective is the Murders at Karlov Manor one, and then Throbbing Inquisitor is the classic. Just being a 1 mana 1/2 that makes a clue is nice. Again, we are now missing a 1-drop, so we can run cards like this instead of stuff like, Instead of stuff like Inspiring Anarchist, because we just have the slots now. I think this probably gets in over Andir Wild Soul, and I think we do still want to run Huskforger Acolyte, but Wreckage Inquisitors does give us a second option now. And again, clues. We really want these clues. Alright, moving on to number 5, we have Cataclysm Constable. 1 and a green for a 2/2 creature human detective. It has Vigilance, and whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, investigate. What another clue maker, and it's so good. It's one thing if that powerful 4-drop was like, you have to run all these bad cards to make it work. But no, this card is just good. It's asking you to run good cards. I can't refuse. Cataclysm Constable, being a 2 mana 2/2 that just makes a clue whenever anything hits your opponent is great. We're going to have stuff hitting our opponent fairly often. When compared to other 2-drops, it is still probably a little lacking. Growing Gecko and Ursus Minora are like the best draws into mono green. But I think Cataclysm Constable can get there as well. The fact that it just makes clues, again, super relevant. This will make 1 clue before your powerful 4-drop comes down and does stuff with the clues. Yeah, I think Cataclysm Constable has to be in our top 5. Eccentric Geneticist is the 1-drop I'm most excited for in mono green. A single green mana for a 1/1 creature human scientist. It gets +1/+1 as long as you control another creature with mana value 2 or greater. It gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance as long as you control another creature with mana value 4 or greater. And it gets +1/+1 as Trample as long as you control another creature with mana value 6 or greater. This card is gas. Being a 1 mana 2/2 consistently when we curve out on turn 2 is great. I love 1 mana 2/2s, they're always solid. Being a 1 mana 1 mana 3/3 with Vigilance is really good, and we have 4-drops that we like playing. This is great. We have a really good 4-drop soon that we like playing. And then we have Tumultivore to occasionally put this to a 1 mana 4/4 Vigilance and Trample. That is disgusting. Tumult of Our Entering will make it a 5/5. Your 1-mana 5/5 with Vigilance and Trample. Oh my god, that sounds so good. This set is gas for mono green. Eccentric Geneticist is absolutely going in the list, and I am so excited to see how it does. Ruinate is perhaps the new best mono green artifact enchantment answer. 1 green for a sorcery. Destroy all non-creature, non-land permanents with mana value 3 or less. Gorian Leyspire, your time may be up. This is so cheap. 3 mana, just blow up everything that's an artifact, enchantment, planeswalker, I guess battle, those are also enchantments, but that's fine. This doesn't hit creatures, but I don't think that's super relevant. There are not a lot of insane creatures and enchantment creatures and artifact creatures running around that we desperately need to answer with Ruinate that this misses out on. I think Ruinate is going to be a staple of the mono green sideboard. I think it's going to be a staple of a lot of different sideboards, not just mono green. And I'm really excited to see how it plays out. I'm just like, ugh, this card is so good. This set is so good for green. Now for what I think is probably our new best 3-drop, Deep Cover Prowler. 200 green for a 4/3 creature, human Eldrazi detective. Whenever a creature, what a type line, by the way. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, investigate. If you've already created a clue this turn, draw a card instead. And then you can pay 3 green to fragment this creature. This card's crazy. It's a 3-mana 4/3. Whenever your opponent casts a spell that targets it, you just make a clue, which is going to be pretty annoying. And then you can fragment it late game, and then you start making clues and drawing cards? Oh my god, this card is so good. It targets my entire board. You want to bolt my dork? I'm still making a clue. If it has things that have multiple, like if you cast a multi-target spell, I will be making a clue and then drawing a card as well. Like, this card does so much protection against removal. It's crazy. It's so solid. And then I think this is like the #1 reason to start running Huskforger Acolyte again. I started cutting it from lists because our 3-drops just weren't that good to ramp into, but now they are. If you're going to cast a removal spell on my Deep Cover Prowler, I'm going to come away with it still having stuff on board. Foreign Encounter, great with this. Making it a 5/4 is even better than a 4/3. I just think this card is going to be the main reason why mono green, not the main reason. I mean, one of the main reasons why mono green comes back. The main reason. Oh wait, nope. I forgot I had this. Honorable mentions. Whoopsie. Okay, so honorable mentions. We're going to go through some of the colorless cards that caught my eye as potentially decent in mono green. First, we have Promising Vista. It's a land that enters tapped. When it enters, you may pay 2 life if you do add colorless. And you can tap, sacrifice the land to search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. I think Promising Vista is very promising. We already run Primal Fisher as sort of a fetch that in mono green that can tap to give us a landfall trigger, and this does pretty much the same thing. We can still use the pay 2 life to cast our 3-drops and 4-drops. It is very bad at casting our 1-drops and 2-drops, which is a mark against it, but Primal Fisher is good at casting those, so that's kind of a nice trade-off. And then being, of course, a double landfall trigger is very helpful. Thought Scraper is a 2-mana 2/2 creature Eldrazi. As it enters, you choose a card name, and triggered abilities of sources with the chosen name don't trigger. This is a really just solid card. 2-mana 2/2 that can just shut off certain triggers is really important. If your opponent has a trigger that you know is absolutely just going to blow you out, you can go ahead and play Thought Scraper. I don't know anything off the top of my head that I would want to blank with this, which is why it's not going into the list immediately, but depending on what lists emerge in month 1, Thought Scraper may find its way into sideboards or main boards. And I will note, I know it says you can choose lands right now. That function is going to be removed in the future. Ulamog's Augur is 3 and a colorless for a 3/3 creature Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, choose an opponent, exile the top card of their library, and up to 1 target non-land permanent they control. And when it leaves the battlefield, each opponent puts a card they own in exile into their hand. I was initially high on this card, but the fact that they can just grab anything back with that trigger is rough. And that colorless mana cost is not something we're going to be interested in splashing for at the moment. And then finally, we have What Remains of Frostenhold. It is a land that taps for colorless, and then you can pay 5 to make it a 4/4 Eldrazi land creature until end of turn. I was like thinking I kind of want a man land, but I think Buffer Reconservatory just does that job better. And with Primal Fissure and Promising Vista, we're already running a lot of colorless lands potentially, so I don't think we want this. Just being a 5-mana 4/4 is not enticing enough. Okay, now we can move on to number 1. Gloamvale Trackers. 2 green for a 4/5 creature, human dog detective. It has trample. Whenever you cast your first creature spell each turn, investigate. And then beginning a combat on your turn until end of turn, clues you control become 3/3 artifact creatures with trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it. If you do, draw a card. This card is nuts. I love this card so much. This might be my new favorite card in the format. I love it that much. 4 mana 4/5 trample. Already a really good stat line. Like, honestly, that might just be better than its Esteemed Exterminator on its own, because it can actually punch through 3/3s and 4/4s. Investigate whenever you cast a creature spell for the first time. Also just really good. Like, we can use it to dig late game, and we don't have to pay 2 to dig, because that last ability turns all your clues into 3/3s with trample that die and draw when they hit. So you get to shirk the 2 mana cost, you're cheating 2 mana, you get to draw a card, you're drawing cards, and you get to hit the opponent for 3 with trample. This card is insane. Can you imagine curving this into, like, oh, I can't even imagine. This card is so good. I have a feeling it's probably going to get adjusted down a little bit, but I really hope it's not going to just be something that, like, kills the card, because it's such a cool card and such a fun play pattern, and I really hope the card is playable, because, oh my god, it's such a fun design. Okay, that was the end of the list. Let me know what you think in the comments. Give me some engagement so YouTube can promote our wonderful little format. I will see you on day 1 of the release to be jamming mono green in your area and hopefully kill you with some 3/3 clues. Alright, I will see you later. Bye-bye.